Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the introduction of my data source, focusing on digital communicative practices in higher education. And this is also an introduction about how I started my research for this topic. And I will also briefly discuss the previous literatures related to my topic. So let's start. Since the pandemic, in the ISS office has increasingly transitioned from physical to online interactions. And this shift enables staff, including myself, to work remotely, relying heavily on digital platforms such as Slack, WeChat, and Zoom for internal communications and external use with students. So the core of my analysis centers on how these digital platforms serve both as front stage and backstage arenas, just like the graphs I draw here. And the concepts of front stage and backstage, along with space work, are crucial for understanding the nuances of digital communication, especially in deciphering the intent behind the nonverbal cues like emojis during professional interactions. Goffman used a theatrical metaphor to describe how individuals behave in social situations. And according to him, and also by looking at the graphs here, the front stage, this is where the social performance occurs. And it's the part of our social life where we are in front of an audience and must act according to the social norms and expectations relevant to the role we are playing. In this area, we are conscious of how we are perceived and work to manage and control the impressions others form of us. At backstage, contrasting with the front stage, the backstage is where we can drop our public personas and be ourselves. Just like the girl drop off all these masks with different facial expressions, and she's smiling. So it's a private area free from the eyes of an audience where we prepare for our front stage performances and can relax into our true selves without fear of judgment. So I also put a sign light, which is so natural here, but also a headlight, which is so unnatural here. So the face work, this concept involves the strategies used by individuals to maintain their social standing during interactions. It represents the efforts one puts into presenting oneself according to the expected conventions to ensure that their social face remains intact. And face work is critical during front stage performances, but less so backstage, where the pressure to maintain social facades is reduced. But this is not necessarily true in my study, but we will elaborate it further in the data analysis part. So government conducted these series in 1950s to 60s, long before the advent of personal computers, the internet, and the digital communication platforms that we are familiar with today. During Goffman's era, the dominant forms of communication were face-to-face interactions and telephone calls and writing correspondence. Digital platforms, which epitomize the blending of government's front stage and backstage areas, only emerged in the early 2000s. So the digital communication landscape as we know it was non-existent during government's active research years. So you may wonder, have other researchers commented on the lack of a digital perspective in this area? The answer is definitely yes. Let's start with an insightful study by Sharifian and Jamarani. They pinpoint how the proliferation of digital communication tools like chat rooms, emails, and social media has fundamentally transformed intercultural communication. And this transformation isn't just about more frequent interactions, but involves a fundamental shift in how these interactions take place. Digital platforms often alter traditional cultural identities and require new, innovative methods to navigate this complex terrain effectively. And moving on, Smith and Carden in 2007 introduced a really interesting concept, which is called threshold effect in digital educational environments. But I have to mention that all educational environments here are not necessarily higher education. It's a really general educational institutions. It could be high school, K-12 or so. So this pivotal idea helps us understand that the delicate balance users must maintain in managing their public and private personas online. And their research conducted in the hybrid e-learning context at Stony Brook University highlights the nuanced ways in which digital platforms can either facilitate or complicate our ability to manage these dual aspects of our identity. And in terms of practical applications, consider how digital platforms serve as crucial tools for intercultural learning. The way these platforms are integrated into educational settings can significantly influence how students from diverse backgrounds interact and learn from each other. Online forums, for instance, often act as a friend stage where students perform academically. Yet, when online components are robust, these forums can also foster genuine social interactions that mimic face-to-face engagement, reducing isolation and enriching the educational community. And moreover, interaction patterns in digital enhanced courses tend to mirror those observed in more traditional educational settings. And this suggests that immersive online environments could potentially support traditional social interactions more effectively and maintaining norm internalization and distinct front stage versus backstage behaviors. But one area that remains underexplored is the role of non-teaching staff in these digital intercultural dynamics. So in the past research, they have a really comprehensive elaborations on how instructors and students' interactions make difference of backstage, front stage behaviors or similar things. But these non-teaching staff, these staff members such as administrative personnel, student advisors, and support services actually play a pivotal role in creating a supportive educational environment other than teaching staff, instructors, professors in higher education. And their interactions on digital platforms provide rich insights into how intercultural dialogue and identity negotiation occur beyond the classroom, and they act as cultural mediators and are key to facilitating informal learning opportunities that are vital for students' holistic development in multicultural higher education settings. And by focusing on the digital engagement of non-teaching staff, my research not only fills theoretical gaps by revisiting Goffman's front stage and backstage and past studies, but also adapts to the evolving technological landscape that has reshaped higher educational interactions online. So please move forward to explore some intriguing data analysis that highlight these dynamics in action. Thank you for your listening and see you in my data analysis presentations.